Hi, my name is Marquita Sams, founder of Miracles in Motion, and I focus on movement, mental health, and spiritual healing. And helping you heal one step at a time is my goal. And I also work as a hospice social worker. So I want to spend a little bit of time speaking about that. It's something that we don't talk a lot about, it's something that people kind of shun talking about. And so let's start with talking about death. And let's back it up. Let's talk about how I became a hospice social worker. So I have spent the majority of my life as a dancer. I started dancing when I was 4 years old. I am passionate about dancing. I dance professionally, choreograph, all that. And I had a liver transplant in 2016. And after my transplant, I wanted to use my gifts, my intuitive gifts, my mediumship gifts, my dance gift to help people heal and help people on their own who are on their own healing journey. And I began to think of ways to integrate dance with my spiritual practice to help other people. And as a part of my promise to my donor and myself, especially to honor them, I said that I would volunteer to help other people who are on the transplant list or who are trying to get on the transplant list. So I became a volunteer and I began kind of mentoring people who were basically trying to get a liver transplant. And as I was doing that, I began thinking about therapy. I began thinking, this is kind of like therapy, sort of. I thought it was at the time. And I thought maybe being a therapist was something that I could do, that I would be, that I would enjoy. Fast forward years later, I got married. My husband is a social worker, and seeing the type of work that he did made me start thinking about social work. So I had already gotten my master's of fine arts in dance, and I started thinking about going back to school to get my master of social work degree to become a therapist. So I did that, and I had the intention of, I still do have the intention of, and I still am, working as a therapist, just in a different way at times. I have my license. I have my license of master's social work, so I have an LMSW, and I found myself working as a hospice social worker. I mean, it was really kind of just happened. It just kind of fell in my lap. And when I first started, it was an adjustment. I moved from doing therapy full time to working as a hospice social worker full time, and I didn't know what to expect. I have a family member who worked in hospice as a chaplain, and so I remember talking to her, seeing her experiences. So I thought, I guess it's something I'll be doing. Now I'm also a medium, and so I communicate with spirit. I can hear spirit's voice, and when I'm doing healing sessions for people, I often am able to connect them with their loved ones who passed over. So I was like, ooh, this might be a little interesting. So I started hospice, and there's just a lot I did not know about the death and dying process, and I learned very quickly. And as a hospice social worker, it's my job to provide resources, provide emotional support, to counsel the family members. It's my job to do assessments, to help families with discharge plans. But the bulk of my job is providing emotional support and working with a team of staff members who provide comfort care to patients and support to their families. And so I spend the majority of my day around people who are dying. And I've never spent so much time around death in my life. And it has become something that has really opened my eyes to different perspectives on life and relationships, and just understanding who I am as a spiritual being, as a human, as a person, as all those labels. And when I wear my uniform out in public, people can see I work in hospice. I think most of the time people assume that I'm a nurse, but I'm not a nurse. I'm a hospice social worker. But people see that and they're like, ooh, how do you do that? Or people ask me, isn't that hard? And I mean, maybe they caught me my first day, I would have been like, yeah, I don't know about this hospice stuff. This is, I don't know. I don't know how I'm gonna be able to do this. But further, y'all, my hair is doing something real crazy. But further into it, I mean, it's something I do every day. So it's, I mean, you see different things, but it's just a different world. And it showed me how much we in America do not talk about death. And it's a big part of life, right? We're all cliche, we're all dying. But honestly, we are. And so from what I've seen, I would think, well, I would suggest that people learn about the death and dying process. So not, preparing yourself, but just knowing about the body and how amazing it is and how it supports itself and how it shuts down or how it tries to rebuild. I mean, it's amazing. I work with nurses, doctor, and it's amazing how the body works. How long you really can go without food. Like some people have not had food and drink for weeks, and you think if you don't eat for a few days, then you're going to die. That's not true. And just knowing, having some education around what does it look like when someone is declining, because sometimes I'll have families to say, oh, they were doing fine, they stopped doing this, they stopped doing that. Little did they know their family member, their loved one was declining. They just didn't know the signs. So I think it's helpful to educate yourself about the death and dying process, the physical process, just to be able to understand more about the body. Because when you understand, oh, this person's drink every day, this person smoked every day, and everybody's different, but also it kind of shows you, okay, well, how can I live a better life? How can I live a more healthy life? How can I live a more joyful life? Because honestly, we never know when something can happen. So I would definitely suggest educating yourself, educating your family members on the death and dying process. Not everyone goes through hospice. Not everyone goes through going to a family member, going to a nursing home, going to a rehab. Not everybody goes through that, but everybody dies. Everybody, even just for yourself, knowing, okay, if it comes to me not being able to breathe on my own, do I want someone to put me on a ventilator? Just knowing for yourself, knowing for family members, knowing for friends, just knowing that death is a natural process. And at some point, we're all going to be touched by it. We all have been touched by it. I think it would just be helpful as a person to understand that process so that you can better understand how to live and how to support yourself, support your body in the process that it goes through. Now, also, being a hospice social worker and a very spiritual person has been interesting. So some patients don't have family members there 24/7. Some don't have any family members at all. Some do. People come and go. But sometimes I do spend time with patients who are not responsive, and I just communicate telepathically with them. I just say it like that. Like I go into my centering space where I'm able to tap into energy and communicate non-verbally with someone who also is alive but cannot communicate verbally, and communicate with them, asking them about themselves, um, asking them different questions, or just being open to receive anything they want to say. So I've done this, y'all. My hair is doing something real crazy, but okay, side note, it's also kind of about death and rebirth, but I have gone natural, did the big chop twice, and so in July I decided that I wanted to lock my hair, and so this is a whole new phase of life for me. So get into it. Anyway, side note, yeah, I do enjoy sometimes being able to communicate with people non-verbally because they're still alive. They just can't make their wishes known or talk, or they may be scared. And so I communicate with them and try to help them feel calm. Sometimes I do energy healing just to help them feel calm and just send positive energy towards them, especially if they don't have anyone. And also, I've been in situations or with patients where their family members who are in spirit will be in there talking to me, and I can sense them there, I can feel them there, I can I can just sense it. And I mean, when you walk into a hospice social work unit, I mean, the death is so present. I can't help but feel spirit all over the place. And so that for me is a comfortable type of place, but sometimes it's a little eerie. Um, but that's also the spiritual part of the work that I do enjoy. What else? There's more to life. I mean, I knew that before, but just being so close to death, or being there when someone passes away, being there when people or patients are at the bridge of this world and that world, where they are seeing their family members, they're talking to their family members who are deceased. We can't see them, but they are talking to them, and sometimes I can feel them. Just being able to witness that is remarkable in a way, because it shows, is proof that there is a realm that we cannot see. And I think that if people, just everyday people, saw the things that I've seen as a hospice social work, they would open their minds to spiritual systems, spirituality, and not necessarily be so rigid and tied to religious institutions. Because at the end of the day, I know some people hate when you say that, but it's true. We are all human. We're gonna come out. Oh well, depend. That's a whole other story. I'm not even gonna go down that rabbit hole today. We are all going to die, and we're all going to leave this physical plane and go somewhere else. And seeing that transition happening, like I'm literally seeing someone transition, they're here and then now they're not, is something that you don't see every day. I mean, I see it a lot. I see it every week, but the person who's not in hospice or not in this kind of field, you don't see that all the time. And so when you see something, it's easier to believe it than before. I'm telling people, oh, I'm a medium, I can talk to this person, I can communicate. But now I'm closer to it, it's more believable. So I would suggest also that families talk about death, dying, preparation. Like, what do you want? What do you want to happen to you? Like an advanced directive, power of attorney. Like, what do you want? If something happens to you and you can't communicate, what do you want? Do you want a feeding tube? Do you want life saving measures? Do you want to be resuscitated? Do you want, because sometimes people get in these situations and people don't agree about certain things, family members are not agreeing, and because the person did not make their wishes known before, it just leaves this mess, which is not that person's fault, but also I think it's important for us to take responsibility, take accountability for ourselves. And what do I want to happen to me, so that my children, my family don't have to argue about whether or not to put me here, there, on this, on that. This is what Marquita wanted. So if this situation happens, then this is what you see. This is what you should do. Just some tips. But I enjoy the work that I do. I enjoy helping people. I enjoy helping families. I enjoy being an emotional support for people. And working in hospice it's not for everyone. It's not for everyone. And then you will learn very quickly if it's for you or if it's not. It is something that's definitely needed. It's definitely respected and important, especially in American culture, where sometimes elderly people or people who are chronically sick, terminally ill, do not get the support, the resources, the love, the care that they need. In America, a lot of times the focus is on youth and beauty and capitalism and making money and having all these things. But what about taking care of somebody's grandmother, somebody's grandfather, somebody's child who has a disability, somebody's terminally ill uncle? Who's going to take care of these people if they don't have the finances, they don't have the resources, they don't have the family, the friend support system? How are these people going to get the care that they need and get that care with so that they still have their dignity, so they still feel loved and cared for? That's important. And being in hospice has really taught me how to communicate with families, especially when there are a lot of dynamics going on and family members aren't necessarily agreeing or getting along. It's important to make sure that you communicate with your loved ones. And that's just for everyone. Family is sometimes complicated, but in certain situations, you want your family to pull together, be supportive, be loving, be kind, and you know, we all die, and I think we should talk about it more. All right, till next time.